Because what I see actually happening, to be honest with you, is like those who stole, those who are corrupt, those who are, practicing nepotism, those who are just going to run for office just to steal, there will be nothing to steal.
No, that's true. And that's what I was telling you. I have a feeling that there's a certain generation that is gone. That one, that's what I was saying. We can't change those ones.
Yeah.
However, there's the people who now, I don't want to use that analogy of leaders of tomorrow, but the actual people, the real vibrant society, which is 35 and below. The challenge we're having is that what have they learned from their elders? Who are their role models? What is it that they can do? If your relative, your uncle, your father gets away with something, and comes and celebrates with you, and you're happy with it, and even, you're bragging all over the place, hey, you bought new cars and all these things. What is going to get you off that path?
Of course, nothing.
Nothing. You see, so the challenge is that what is being handed down to these fellows? Who are their role models? When you hear somebody saying their role model is like a former governor, bling bling, who had all the money in the world and all these chase cars and everything, that's the life that somebody is aspiring to. And they also say they didn't even go to school. You see, the other challenge we're having is that this thing we're having about of education being big, we are crashing it with what we are doing on a daily basis by saying, you don't need I was shocked that you don't need a degree to be a cabinet minister. I didn't know that. Until we were doing vetting the other day.
But I think
you don't need a degree.
Who was fired because they didn't have, they didn't even finish primary school. It was a guy. He's from Western. Echesa. Yes.
No, it was because of corruption. It was other things that were happening. It wasn't because of his paperwork.
The paperwork came afterwards.
No, it was nothing to do with paperwork. We have MPs who've gone to class 6. So when you go and tell somebody, now you need to go to school, you need to get education, they're asking you, why? You got your education. When I compare you, these are the guy who never went to school. This guy is a governor now. So what are you telling me? So you see, we are defeating ourselves. Our nationalism is hurting from our own activities, actions as a nation. If you could hold that up and say, look, I mean, you remember, for all his good and bad things, Mishuki, whatever it is that he decided to do, he did it across board and said, look, from today, safety first. It doesn't matter if this matatu transport is owned by a policeman, they will buy seatbelts and fix. They will put speed governors. We abided. Nobody killed anyone because of that thing. We just woke up and we started aligning. Same thing that you're saying, Kagame did. He said certain things, certain tenets we have to live by as a nation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. He went as far as when donors would bring money for projects, he would tell them 40-50% usually goes back to you because you bring your cars, you bring your project managers. We don't want. If you're bringing with those strings attached, stay with your money. And they aligned. And now the money started doing work. In Kenya, we are still in that place where you're talking about, we're going to raise this 1 billion or whatever it is for hunger. How much of that is going to get to the
80%?
Why? Because we have guys there who are, rent seekers, busybodies in there, middlemen. I'm the one who brought the load. The fuel, the what. All the money goes in there. Whereas the person who's actually starving remains starving. They don't get as much as they could have gotten. So if you get to that point where you can crash those ideals, make sure that the right ones are in place. We had a national creed, we had a loyalty pledge, we had social ethics during our time. I have no idea if any of these things are still there anymore. See, and so what is there to reference for a child who's in school? When you say, hey, you need to go to school. Why? Because is a challenge for you and I. How are you answering the because? Because when you go to school, what? Then? We can't answer that. That is the challenge that parenting is now experiencing. How are you answering and addressing that? Whereas the neighbor who nobody knows what this parent does, father or mother, but they have the big cars, they have the kids themselves don't know what the parents do. They don't know what the father does, but they live a very lavish lifestyle. When this child is growing up, he can't understand what you're saying about going to school and all. My father doesn't look like he went to even doesn't have a degree or whatever it is, but he's ranking. Yours is a professor, but the fellow he doesn't even have a car. So we're having a challenge with the role modeling that we have created as a nation, not even as a family level. Now the other area of growth and where we were getting self-salvation was what? The church. The church was leading in bringing our people morals and all. Now suddenly, we are also a conduit. I can't remember the last time anybody from a church or we used to have the NCCKs, we had the Alexander Muges of this world. We had, Gold Dingimana, the people who would stand and they had the moral attitude to stand and speak. Where you sit and say, hey, on this issue of taxation, on this issue of corruption, on this, they would have a platform. When is the last time you ever had anybody from the church speak about anything?
It just boils down to the offerings.
This is the challenge we have. So if they are already partakers, it's the water that comes from outside that sinks the boat. Now, how are they going to sanitize this boat and dry it when it's still taking in the water from outside? So that is the big challenge. And when the kids, you say, go to church, even in the church, someone is half because this fellow last night was given some money. So he can't even speak with the light, with the salt that he's actually supposed to speak with. So it is down to now the parent. Now we're back to parents. And that's why I'm saying for the parents, if we are too busy chasing around doing things out there, we are not doing anything for the kids, we are then setting them up for a worse situation than ours where we are in right now. Because they will now grow up saying, in any case, what is church? It's corruption, but corruption has been normalized. You can go to jail and be released the next day. It's not a big deal. We're in that kind of society. So I think there's still a chance. I'm not saying it's a hopeless situation because now the world is a global village. And we are seeing a lot of the countries, a lot of areas that are growing is because people are applying deep thinking. They're applying intellectual knowledge. They are getting real substance and content that they can utilize to build their lives. Not these things of just copy-pasting and saying, my neighbor did, I'm also going to do. I mean, it's a very bad example to use, but you set up tomorrow
an M-Pesa shop.
Yes, I was going to say a salon or a barber shop out here. There's no competition. The whole region, everybody will be coming to your shop. They will be coming to your salon and doing all these things.
Within 3 months.
Which 3 months? Within 1 month. Another fellow will come. Instead of him setting up a shop that can send combs and oils and wigs,
cosmetics,
he will set up another salon like yours.
Exactly.
You've set up the traffic already. You've created the goodwill in the area. The market is ready. Now, where you are getting 100, you're getting 50. He also gets his 50.
Another month.
Things is happy. Another month, a third fellow comes. Says, this guy seems to be making money. Okay, borrows money from somewhere, comes and sets up another one. Now, there's 3 of you. So that's the challenge we're having.
And that's a very good example you have given because I'm thinking about it even in the tech ecosystem right now. Fintech has become a very huge startup investment vehicle for different countries across Africa. And right now, you cannot count how many fintech companies we have in place in a span of 3-4 years that have come up because they hear that, Flutter, we've got an investment. A company XYZ got
$10 million.
You're like, this is it. I'm going to build this fintech. And I think that's a mentality that actually we should actually shun from because there is so much that we can do. Even I'm thinking about, if you sank the well that we're talking about in a few minutes gone, in Northeastern, it's a big business. If you think about it. If you figure out drainage, right now with the dry season, the whole Nairobi is smelling because the sewage system is not working. If you do this, actually, how many towns can you duplicate this? Mombasa, there's Nakuru, there's Kisumu. No one is thinking about that. If you think about garbage, and I'm not talking about the ones that people go to the estates collecting, and charging tenants for that. I'm talking about making the city clean. And you have a contract with the county government and say, you know what, enough of garbage collection, and you employ some people to do the work every day. We could get way ahead and create so many jobs. But we are not ready to do it. And for what reason? I don't know.
No, because in mentally it is hard work. I told you about the path of least resistance. If you give me option A and B, and B is easy, I will go with B. Even if A will take me further, I will go with B. Because that's where the mind says, quick, let's make this thing work. I don't know who was giving the analogy about I had a hard life. No, my grandfather had a hard life. I have a softer life. My father has an okay life. Me, I have a very soft life. My kids are most likely going to have a medium soft life. Their children will have a hard life. Their children's children will have a terrible life. And then the cycle repeats.
So they say, this is the way they say it. They say good times create
bad people?
There's the name they use, and then the bad times create. Good times create bad men, and bad times create good men.
Something like that.
And then it becomes a cycle if you're not careful. And that's why, I don't know if, again, this is a good example. When you look at Israel and how it works, Israel is always way ahead of the curve because they can't afford the luxury of iteration of different handovers. And even when you meet them in different places, because they travel a lot, that's one of the things that Israelites do. You will see always they articulating, like, what solution can I offer?
Yes,
how can
every day.
They go back after every 2 years because it's a whole community.
Yes.
And this is the point I want to drive it to. Like Africa, we have an opportunity to recreate and correct and learn from these other continents' mistake. Because for us, at least you have a community. As long as much as we have these borders and everything, when Africans meet, by the way, you never know if this is a Kenyan, this is whatever.
Yeah, we are one.
We look the same. We think the same. We love maybe even food the same way. We eat the same. You know, there are a couple of similarities that we share. True. So we can actually, with education, of course, we can actually leapfrog from where we are right now, which is at the bottom of the pyramid. And at the bottom of the food chain, and build something that actually the world can learn from the way we educate our people, the way we manage our issues, the way we even manage the resources, because there's so much resources that actually we have in Africa, and even the way we grow economically, infrastructure, socially, in everything, in every aspect, and just to like bring you back now to the parenting. About your dad. Was he a disciplinarian, or how did he
so
bring a fine man like you?
I think I'm getting you where you're heading with the question.
And I'll define the fine man here.
I know you're heading with the question, but so my dad was lucky that in the 50s, while he was growing up, because he was very bright in class, he got a scholarship from the, I don't know if it still exists, Quakers. Yeah, that's Friends International. So the Quakers were a very big movement in the UK at that time.
I've ever heard of the
I think
program. Back in 90s, were they there?
Yes, I think they're there even now. There's some churches that are still operational. Friends International. Yeah. So the global church is called the Quakers. So they set up a church somewhere in our home county, and they identified some young people, and he stood out because he was, he was a sharp guy. So they picked him and said, okay, sent him to the UK. So he was in Bristol, I think, 6 years. He was a bachelor's plus a master's. By the time he came back, he was a teacher. Came back, he was ready.
High school or primary?
He was a high school teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, Kisii High School, taught in Upper Hill, a few other schools. When he came back now, he was promoted to become a lecturer. So he was a dean of students at Kenyatta University for many years, about 4 years. At some point along the way, the villagers just came and said, look, man, this is a waste of talent, waste of sources. What is this you're doing? Teaching. We are here suffering. We need people representation. And there were very powerful politicians at that time. Very powerful. I name some names. Yeah, there was a gentleman called Burudi Nabwera. There was another man
Which
called,
constituency was this?
That time it was called Lurambi North. Now it is 4 constituencies.
Okay.
It was split into like Malava, Lugari, Kuyani. Yeah, there are 4 people from the one.
So the chief ran all those 4.
Yes. So
diligently.
The government is closer to us now. Anyway, long and short is he went up against the likes of Moses Mudavadi. That's Mudavadi's dad, who was like the kingpin in Western. So he fought some serious battles. In that aspect of exposure, because of having gone to the UK and then come back and lived with communities across, teachers are posted anywhere. Lived with all the communities across Kenya. He understood how tribes live and why this tribe thing is a fallacy. However, he also understood that it's not always about the threats, about the beatings and all. It is, what example do you show for people to pick up from you and say, I want to be like so-and-so. So for us, for my whole life, I was never caned by my dad. My mom caned me almost daily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mom.
I would be damned. One of them has to be doing the discipline part of things.
So my mom had to carry that bit. But it is because all she needed to say was that I'm going to tell your dad. And you see, because I held him in such high regard, I felt so bad to let him down. Like I've done something wrong that needs to come to his attention. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. So that was enough. And because of that, I wouldn't say he was, having been a teacher and being trained to teach, he knew how to deal with children. having learned how to deal with children and to that level of expertise, of course you would know what to do with adults. So I think we had a good balance about authoritarianism and just being meek enough or modest enough to allow for free thought within the area. And what do you want to be? I want to be this, that, the other. For information, when he went to the UK, he wanted to be a lawyer. His father told him, lawyers are liars, they take people's money, they cheat even when you're guilty. You can go and somebody will go and, put up a case for you and they will win the case, even if you killed. Now, I have nothing against lawyers. They do a fantastic job. But it stuck so strongly in my dad.
But a lot of that is true.
That he refused. He didn't take up law. Yet, he had a great chance to be a brilliant lawyer. And he says, even later in life, he said, no, I could still have it. I don't have a problem. It's just that I took my dad's word so seriously and I saw his logic in terms of, for sure, if you have a case and you've killed someone, you need a lawyer. Imagine the lawyer gets you off the hook. What happens? What does the family of the person you killed think? Lawyers are bad and all this. So it created a bit of a poison in our minds as children. Like, this law thing, much as it is very, very necessary.
So no lawyer in your family?
No, we don't have lawyers in our family. We don't have lawyers because of that. Because we're like, it could mean for him to survive, to do a good job, they have to get you off the hook.
Yes.
Whether you're guilty or not. That's what happens.
Yes.
And
that's
rightfully, that's what the law says. Come and argue your case. Forget about what can you prove. That's all that matters.
Beyond reasonable
What
doubt.
can you prove? If the other fellow can't prove that you actually killed him, no death occurred. Life goes on because where's the body? Where's the weapon? Where's all these things? So I think we learned from that. But to answer your question, he was very open in terms of allowing free speech, free thought, so that you get to the level where you're required to be and what support do you need. So we got into trouble doing all sorts of things, inventing, trying to innovate and all that. But it was good trouble because it's like, even lying takes a lot of intelligence.
True.
It's usually to say that if you don't have a child that lies, your child is a bit dumb. Once in a while, they need to lie. When they are growing up, they need to have some. Because otherwise, they can't think out of a situation. They'll always be stuck and say, this is what happened. And then those ones, there's obviously other roles. They can be priests and all. But in life, you have to find a way that you can survive. Not to be a liar, but to be understanding what is the best way to get myself out of a difficult situation lawfully. So he allowed us to be free thinkers and be able to just, execute on our skills and talents to the best of our abilities. But when I come back to just thinking through the way what you are raising in terms of Africa as a continent, you see, much as you're saying we are bottom of pyramid, you see, there's a big drive around even just this fintech space. But it's because even the likes of M-Pesa and all these new age things that we've founded, a lot of them are not even in those first one. The other day, one of my brothers is in the US and he married somebody from Canada. He cannot send money from the US to Canada.
He has to...
Cannot. He has to go and deposit it in a bank. And then the bank needs to have a branch in Canada that they can go and withdraw that money. Today, I'm not talking about used to be. This is the current situation. And we are here sending money to people in South Africa, in Nigeria, in all these places. So we tech is the leverage for
just through your phone.
Yes, it is the leverage for leapfrogging so that we don't have to make the same mistakes these fellows made. We don't have to take 300 years to get to where the US is. We don't. But then what we have...
So my dream is valid.
It is valid. What is holding your dream back is leadership. Yes, because the US had all these years to make mistakes with their leaders and they had the resources to burn with those leaders. We don't have that luxury. We do not have enough.
Everyone is depending on Africa.
We can't. So
literally.
50 years is enough time for us to still be dying of hunger. 50 years is enough. There's got to be a time when you wake up and say, look, going forward, this is what is going to happen. Yes. If we're not on that level, for me, if my auntie or my mother is unwell and she's, maybe she's in Nairobi, she's been going to hospital in Kakamega, she has to carry her X-rays and all these other things from Kakamega to Nairobi to go to Kenyatta Hospital and present them there. Because Kenyatta Hospital has no way of telling what treatment has she been receiving in Kakamega. None, no way.
And take an action for that.
That's a basic thing. When you go and say, okay, these seeds, there's a challenge around the soil. We've been planting maize all over these years. Now the maize has been going from 14 bags to 12 bags to 10. Now we're on 6 bags. Tech can tell you that soil is depleted. We need to figure out a way to replenish it. What can we do? All times, they used old school ways, just leave the land fallow. Even the Bible usually says 7 years and all these things. We don't have that time anymore. But it can tell you, instead of now planting maize, let's do beans. Even in wine school, we used to do science and agriculture, we'll be told, when you plant maize, the next season plant beans, It was very basic. Now nobody wants to think that way because it's too much work to flip from the maize to the beans to the whatever, and yet it's what is returning the nutrients into the ground. So if we start doing the basics right, a lot of these other things will come together. But so long as we are beholden and slaves of politicians, it's going to be a difficult ride for us to get to where we need to get to. That's my only challenge. I wish we could get to the point where, like the US, they say, even if they get a monkey as a president, and I'm not saying they have gotten monkeys in the past, even if they don't get a monkey, life goes on.
Yes,
it doesn't affect their day-to-day. We can't afford
because
that.
They have set enough systems
in place. People will not die because so-and-so is president or this party is out of power. Look at Britain. They flip these things the way we flip burgers.
Within
every
within
2 months,
days.
there's another leader. Life goes on. Okay, fine. There are some glitches here and there because of policies, poor policies that have been implemented, that are affecting revenues and pensions and things like those, incomes, inflation. But by and large, life goes on. Society moves on. We have to get to that point as Africans. We have to get to the point where politics is not the center of our lives. Because otherwise it means when you're trying to innovate something, you have to start worrying, is somebody from KRA
who do I align?
Going to come and bust me before this thing is ready. We've had so many stories of guys who've come back with brilliant ideas to Kenya. They've set up industries and they've been hounded out of those industries because of taxes and compliance and things. And the guys who are hounding cannot even run a kiosk.
True.
But they are killing this guy who has come with an enterprise that is, going to employ over 1,000 people. That's the sad bit. There's too much government in our lives. Yes, too much government. Just stay away. Let me do my thing. Let me grow my people. At some point when the revenues are good, you can come and start taxing.
Yes.
Even when the seed is still in the ground.
It's like you have a toddler and then you start asking her for him for rent.
Yes.
And they have not even started walking.
Where are they even getting? There's no means. So you're stepping the seed when it's still in the ground.
Now they say each person with an ID should get a care
ID. We are bereft of ideas. Then that's the problem. But the challenge also is that we are still thinking old ways, old school.
But do you think
not thinking new stuff?
Do you think becoming rich also does something to your mind? You like stop reasoning or thinking?
We alluded to it when we were beginning, when you were talking about why do people change when they get to certain environments. The truth of the matter is, wealth should not change a person. If you're a small-minded person...
It just amplifies who you are.
Yes. If you're a small-minded person with poor money habits, even when you get a lot of money, you still have the poor money habit. We know people who are wealthy tycoons, but within a year or two of dying, the family is bankrupt.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't know there were loans. You don't know, when you say the grass is green, you don't know what it is. It could be dead bodies under there that are rotting to make the grass green. You have no idea. But you want to say, hey, I want my grass to be green like so and so. That guy has been killing people and they are under there. They're fertilizing his grass. Be careful. So I think it just shows that the wealth shouldn't really change a person. They actually, as you say, amplifies that core that you have, your heart skill. What is your heart skill? What is your what is in your heart? It comes out louder depending on poverty or wealth. When it is small with poverty, even the guys who are poor, they share. They give each other. They support
Actually,
each
they're
other.
the most kindest people.
Yes. Those fellows, when they grow and they become bigger, it's because they associate with the wrong people. They get into the crowds where the other wealthy fellows who have already tainted that society, now they stick in there and start trying to be like them. So that's the challenge. But if these people would remain in their own communities with their wealth, they would never change. They would never become that.
Because all of them now, they're in Nairobi. All of them. Now they have houses in all these poshy places.
Yes.
And the ones, I don't know, the ones who retired still remain in Nairobi or what happens, but all of them are here, regardless of where they were voted. And they just go there to visit. Well, it makes a lot of sense because the parliament is here, but
I don't know.
Nevertheless, you should be able to commute because you have all the luxury of the cars, you're given some allowance. So what you're saying actually can be done. And Kenya is not that huge. There's nowhere you can't get within 24 hours if you want. And
if you started, by the way, if you told me, like the way you're talking about hospitals and having these challenges, the way, for example, Kagame has done and enforced so many things, like at one day he woke up and said, no more French. People have to be taught Swahili. And we had all these teachers migrating from Kenya to go and teach in Rwanda. And they built. And then they improved the public schools so much that private schools just closed on their own. They were not told to close. They just closed because no business.
No business.
So the same way, if you go and say, if you're coming from Kakamega County, you're the MP or the governor, the only way your NHIF and your education, whatever works, is if you procure those services from your county. That means what? If your children are going to Kakamega Primary School, you have to improve the facilities in Kakamega Primary School so that your kids can go there. If you want to go to hospital, you're going to Kakamega General Hospital. You have to improve the facilities in Kakamega because that's where your mother, your sisters, your relatives are going to. But if it is open the way it is, 3/4 of these fellows, when they are sick, they are all here in Nairobi. They don't care about those local hospitals.
And sometimes maybe they go abroad.
Yes. Now, if you force them and say, we're only going to pay as taxpayers, if your child is going to the local school there, if you're going to the hospital there, if you go outside of those boundaries, that is on you. That is your personal bill. Maybe such a law would be passed. You would see how facilities would improve in 5 years because your grandfather gets sick once, twice, and he can only go to the local hospital. You will improve that local hospital and everybody else will benefit. When they say, okay, now you're living in that area because we are giving you a house and we are building it for you in the county, that's the only house that is free. If you come to Nairobi, you pay rent like anyone else and it's not from our money. Then they will stick there and they'll start improving the houses, they'll start improving the building codes, they'll start improving the roads, water supply and all these things. But if 3/4 of the time, like the guys in Northeastern, they all live here in Nairobi. When you're talking about hunger, the guy is here talking about hunger, but he's busy feasting. This is in Isili or whatever it is. What is the resonance? Then you want me from Eldoret or wherever to fundraise for that fellow. And I know the guy sits in Nairobi. How are we helping his county?
It doesn't make sense.
All the money is being burnt in Nairobi. So I think there's some things we can do. We have put our standards so low that it is ridiculous that we are even existing as a nation. Because, I mean, the things that pass as law, you sit and you ask yourself, I mean, this is the best that we can do. The other day we saw, and I'm not critiquing anyone, but we have these 45, 50 million people. We went and picked 22 of the best of these 50 million. That is what we are showcasing to the world. That's our cabinet. The best. Because you see, as president, you have leeway to pick anyone. Those are the best ones we could get. Now, if those are the standards, I'm having a problem telling my child, look, go to school, get this degree, go expose yourself. They're like, no, this is not the society I want to live in. And it is no wonder when these techies come and they get opportunities, they are in, let's say, Safaricom and they are doing a good job. They are creating stuff. And then Google comes or Microsoft and they go and they are moved with 3 times the pay, for example. But they're going to do a fraction of what they were doing in Safaricom. In fact, many times they're idle. As in their brains are not really activated. They are doing things that are repetitive. They are very mundane tasks. But they're being paid a good salary. They sit there. Of course, part of least resistance, what happens? The cells that you would have been using to drive growth and innovation, they die out because they're not being utilized. And then you get to new people.
Is this what is happening?
Yeah. That's how the brain drain is happening from likes of Safaricom, KCB, and moving into now. Because when they're going there, the work rate is nothing compared to what they do in Safaricom. There is paradise, man. It's good life. Understandably, they've earned it because they have the skills. But can this guy do his 9 to 5 there?
Did you just say paradise? Now I'm interested.
Can he do his 9 to 5 at that place and then 5 to 9 do something for the community to build himself, to innovate, to create something? That's what I've always been challenging the guys who I come across in this startup environment. Fine. Work in as many of these organizations as you can because you need to get best standards. You need to understand how the world works, how systems work. Work in these big companies. Get that knowledge. Then go and set up something using that knowledge that helps other people also. Not to go there and you're just forever. You just want to be a guy who waits for end month. Create something. Be a creator as well. So that you build the society for people to have that ambition to say, we can do better. Otherwise, we'll just wait to be picked off. First, we had the doctors. There was the migration. They all left. Then we had nurses, another drive. They all left. Now we are on the techies. They are all exiting. And
they are leaving.
I mean, so can you blame them? You can't blame them. You can't blame them because when they say, okay, you'll be charged 15% tax. It is 15% tax wherever they go. You'll be charged 20%. When you go, the train comes at 10 o'clock. The train comes at 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see where your tax goes.
Yes. Here we are gambling. We are gamblers. National gamblers.
And your security is not insured.
There's no guarantee.
Yes.
I mean, you could leave. Who knows? When you leave in the morning, are you going to get
I can't blame anyone who is leaving. Actually, I would encourage them.
That's the challenge. So I can't blame them. And then now when haphazardly you wake up and say, okay, now we're going to increase this tax and the other tax, and even the little one that you are collecting, we don't know where it was going. Now you want to increase it 3-4 times. Where is it going to go? So we're in those painful, and our guys who are coming up, the youth, they don't care. They don't give two hoots about nationalism and patriotism and all these things. Where is the money? Yes, we'll chase it. Is this what I want to do? Yes. This thing where I used to say people do 1, 2, 3, 5 years of work in one employer. Nowadays you're lucky if you get to 3 years. You're very lucky.
True.
And I cannot blame anyone. I mean, things, opportunities arise. Life is short, as they say, even if it's the longest thing you'll ever do.